everybody. So, like I told you, huge dork. So this is going to be a quick video over some of the things that determine whether or not we will actually use a schema. So first, the ambiguity of the target. So let's say that we're going along and we encounter some target that we're honestly not really certain as to what it is. So this happens often in social situations in which we find ourselves. So for example, you might meet somebody for the first time and you have a little bit of information about them, but not a whole lot. I mean, honestly, you can interpret the information you have either positively or negatively. And so in this situation, you have ambiguous information about that individual. So there's a lot of ambiguity. Well, when you encounter a lot of ambiguity, that's when we're more likely to use whatever schema is currently accessible to disambiguate the target. So if you remember, one of the functions of schemas is to help us disambiguate the world, help us to organize it. Another is to help us organize our perception. So when we encounter something that's ambiguous, we're more likely to use our schemas. All right. Also remember, so that's one time in which we, mind you, we always use our schemas, but our schemas are more likely to affect our perception. Whatever schema is currently accessible is most likely to affect our perceptions or our interpretations, rather, of ambiguous stimuli. So when stimuli or when targets are ambiguous, then we're more likely to use our schemas. Now, there are also a couple situations where we can stop or override the use of our schemas, but that requires a couple ingredients, or several ingredients actually. First, it requires the motivation to alter the use of this schema. So let's say we encounter a group and we have a schema for that group. So we have a stereotype for that group. Well, chances are it's going to be automatically activated, but we then can decide whether to apply that stereotype. And we'll come back to that two-step process of stereotyping much later on. But for now, suffice it to say that you can decide not to apply a stereotype. You might judge it, the stereotype or the schema that you have for that group, you might judge it as not being usable. Okay, so the judged usability of a trait might, or of a schema might come into play. But one of the reasons why you might judge a schema as not being usable is some motivation that you have. So for example, let's say that you are an egalitarian, meaning that you are motivated to treat all people equally. Well, in that situation, there's a good chance that you would, if you had a schema about a member of a group, and you decided that schema was not, or because you're motivated to be egalitarian, you may be more likely to judge that schema as being unusable. All right, so that's the first thing that you need to kind of stop the use of schemas, or stop the automatic application or automatic usage of schemas, motivation. But sometimes, even if you're motivated, there are other things standing in your way, specifically time. So you may be motivated not to apply problematic or ill-informed schemas. You may be motivated to try and individuate every person you meet, even if your schemas are for the most part correct. But you may still just be motivated to control your usage of your schemas. But even then, if you don't have the time to exert that control, chances are you won't. So you have to have the motivation, and you have to have the time. And lastly, you have to have the ability. All right, and the ability to prevent the usage of a schema depends on your knowledge that a schema may be having an effect, and B, the extent to which and direction of which that schema is having an effect. So if you don't know that you're being affected, then you don't have the ability. So you might be motivated to override a schema, you might have the time to do so, but if you don't even know that it's having an effect, you can't do anything. So you don't have any ability to do it. But let's say you are aware that the effect could be there, but you're not aware of how much you're being affected by it. You don't know to what extent it's biasing your judgments. You do not know to what extent it's coloring your interpretations of events, or you don't know to what extent or in what direction it's biasing your behavior. If you don't know if it's biasing you in a negative direction or a positive direction, then you can't correct because you don't know the right way to correct. So if you don't know the extent to which it's affecting you, and especially if you don't know the direction in which it's affecting you, then you don't have the ability to correct. So those three things can affect your ability to override or control the usage of the schema. So in this video, we've talked about the ambiguity of the target. If a target is highly ambiguous, then we're more likely to use whatever schema is currently accessible to disambiguate that target. Sorry, ADD, I'm being distracted by the fact that you can see the reflection of the TV and moving on. And then there are a couple things that make it difficult to override your schemas, even if you want to. First of all, you have to have the motivation to do so. If you don't, you're probably not going. If you're not motivated to prevent their application or their usage, then you probably won't. Even if you're motivated, you have to have the time, and even if you have the time, you have to have the ability. All right, and that is it for this video. As always, if you have questions, send those bad boys my way. You can send me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If not by email, then I'll try to answer your questions in class. But that is it for this video. Take it easy.